Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy. Dave here with
Ted
and Ryan.
And today we're going to get a little racist. We're going to be talking about 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons races. So guys, what do you think?
Well, with the the download, the prequel or whatever we want to call it, we get access to dwarf, halfling, human, and elf. And as I was reading it, it's got a mixture of second and third in it. And I'm like, man, based on this wording, this is what I want to see. And they kept delivering on all of it. Initially I'm reading through elf, and it's like, man, they know how to use swords and spells all at once, so they should be able to do this. And they get access to swords, and they get a free cantrip. They're talking about, all their experience in this and that, and they get an extra language. I was like, just everything just delivered on everything, that it describes.
Well, yeah, every race feels like its quintessential sort of fantasy analog. Like when you think of like Bilbo Baggins or like some of the novelizations of the D&D worlds, like say the Dark Elf trilogy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like all the races kind of have that feel of what you would expect them to have, just at face value for that race.
So okay, so we looked at them and we saw the things we expected to see. But what about what we didn't see? And there's no penalties.
Well, there's no penalties, and the bonuses hold closer to sort of a second edition game design, where they're smaller bonuses, but again, they did away with the penalties to things. Another thing we're not seeing is your smaller races no longer get say a bonus to AC because of their stature, or say a bonus to stealth or anything like that. So that's a little different sort of design aesthetic to it. And then they also did away with the different sizes of weapon categories. Like in 3rd edition they had small smith versions of all the different weapons, and they had a different die. So I mean that's a little different. That again takes it back to 2nd.
Well, and in some ways, Ted will vouch for this, historically that would make more sense too, because
in the history of halflings and gnomes really existing,
make a lot more sense. Well, no, actually, in weaponsmithing, a lot of the weapons in D&D don't actually exist.
Well, yeah.
The term short sword is something that D&D kind of came up with, or fantasy games came up with. It's just called a sword.
Right, and there's just different derivations thereof. But
you've got scimitar, falchion, gladius, longsword. They're all out there, but the term short sword isn't.
Well, I mean, the other thing too, though, like in say Asian weapons, like you have the katana. A wakizashi is basically a small katana, but it's like the short sword equivalent to the katana in a way. So I mean, there's analogs. They just didn't categorize them back in the day.
Yeah, but like when you get into Asian weapons, that's more of a cultural thing and a social standing. But back to my original question, it was a little bit of a loaded question, a little bit of a red herring.
You dick.
I know.
All right.
The penalties are in there, but everyone gets them now. Because if you look at the stat array, they're much lower. You can't even start with an 18 stat unless you randomly roll your stats.
Right.
And
then you have to get an 18 the hard way. So
yeah.
You have to be able to roll a 16, which is still pretty hard to start with an 18.
Right, because if you go with the stat array, you can't get better than a 17.
Yeah.
If you go with the point buy, they don't let you buy higher than a 15.
Right. Well, and also too, all of your points are going to be tied up in like one stat anyway. So there you go.
Well, if you could. So I found that interesting that they totally peeled back
the power level is a lot lower by and large.
And then if you look at other factors in the game, although this is about races right now, but the DCs start out lower to kind of I guess compensate or mitigate. So from the races, you guys each have a favorite?
I always loved halflings. Halflings are super fun. So,
in 2nd edition, I almost always wanted to play an elf. I mean, if you look through the long gaming history, you could see that I think it was like 18 out of 20.
Elf.
18 dwarf, out of 23 characters were elves.
Human.
When we got to 3rd edition, like it was clear cut. Human was the the lead runner, and all the races that they present here, there's a lot of good stuff there. But as it's not back to 2nd edition, I love the elf.
For me, the winner's the dwarf.
Yeah.
You know, I've always loved that race in particular, and you know, in third edition, one of the things they did is like, all right, so most of the world is populated by humans. How come our groups never look like that? You know, so they came up with a solution, and that was to offer some really good incentives.
To become a human, to play a human.
And now in this version of the game, the incentives to become a human are still very good.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, a +1 to all your stats, where your other races you're getting a +3 to 4.
Well, yeah, it's a +2 to one stat and a +1 to another. So generally, it's a +3 versus of a +6 for the human that gets the.
Although I will point out, the mountain dwarf gets a +2, +2.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
They're kind of beefy, unless it's a misprint. I don't know. It almost feels like a misprint because it's the only one.
That seems a little off. Yeah, yeah. To be honest, that should probably be a +1. Probably.
But you know, they also are getting less than they have in the past.
Well, that's true. They don't, you know, dwarves used to get a whole plethora of special abilities that aren't there as much. But I don't feel like they lost anything. They still feel like dwarves.
Oh, absolutely.
To me. They get the bonus weapon proficiencies, hammers and axes. You know, they get stone cunning, which they reworked a little bit. They have dark vision. Feels like it's worth it.
The poison resistance.
You know, based on what you just said, they've done away with. Looks like they've done away with low light vision, because dwarves and elves have the exact same seeing. They
have dark vision. You know, I think in first edition, I think elves had dark vision.
Well, what they're calling it infravision, right?
It was infravision back then. Yeah, they went back to the old school with that, which get kind of weird in the books too, right? Because then they would start trying to write from that perspective in the novels, and then like it flips back and forth because
rule set always fuck up the novelizations where they screw with the time stream, and they make all these retarded decisions. Like you're talking about one of the RA books, which is where like everybody's known and loved is just completely dead, and they just gloss over it.
I'm a huge R.A. Salvatore fan, but in the one book, he obviously, or not obviously, he absolutely just writes a sentence of 40 years passes. And I was just like,
So his wife, or whatever.
To the game, I actually thought it was kind of neat that they did away with low light and just said, okay, you can see normal, or you can see normal and you've got dark vision. I thought that was kind of neat. What else did
Well, you said halfling.
I can elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, why do you like halfling?
Well, I mean, all right. So I mean, historically, like we did one video about our favorite classes. I go for the rogue. The halfling is always going to be your premier rogue, and I venture out into lots of different races, but I love the halfling because they're super optimal for it. It plays into the characteristics of like they're kind of unassuming, so you don't really, nobody expects the halfling, And so anyway, and they have some nice abilities, especially the Lightfoot halfling, that they can hide behind their fellow adventurers for cover. And then they can use this to use their stealth, and so as a halfling rogue, that means you're pretty much going to get your sneak attack off every single round. I mean, you're not going to hit super hard like maybe some of the other races are, but you're going to hit where it counts, and that's kind of nice. Like, so.
Well, I mean that the D6 sneak is gonna more than is gonna on average more than compensate for a higher weapon damage or strength damage.
Yeah, oftentimes it is. But like the fighter, they're not going to be attacking as often because the fighter is the only one. We'll get into this later, but the fighter is the only one that gets iterative attacks or whatever, multiple attacks. So like when you're in the face of multiple attacks, you're not going to do that much. But anyway, I just like the idea of being a shifty little guy that like nobody gives two glances at.
I kind of think you missed something too. With the halflings. Their lucky ability, dude.
Well, the lucky is like the turn the absolute. So if you roll 1, you get to re-roll the die and take the new result. Now, I mean, so basically you can turn the absolute worst result into something significantly better.
Right. So, but let's be honest though. Like you only get to use it on your die 20 rolls. So it's only your attacks, your saving throws.
Although a lot of those things often account. Exactly. Your prime.
And it only takes a short rest to regen.
Is that what the recharge is on that? Can we look it up?
No, I don't think that regens. I think they get that all the time.
Well, no, it's let's see. They're lucky. To reroll the die, must use the new roll.
Oh yeah, no, it's just
Just
whatever.
any time. Holy hell! All right, that is ridiculously good. Holy crap!
Hey,
So-
maybe that's why the mountain dwarf gets a +2 to strength. I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
maybe that could be why.
So if you wind up in a disadvantaged situation, so you drop that 17 and a 1. Oh, I'm forced to use the 1. Oh, reroll it.
Yeah.
But
Yo, dude, you know what it's like? It's like the elven the elven accuracy or whatever
Mhm.
that got called elven reroll a lot of times.
Oh,
yeah.
So it's like the halflings always have an elven reroll in their pocket. So that's pretty sweet.
So that feature alone makes halflings super attractive.
Yeah, I keep on glossing over because I thought it was something that had a recharge, but no, that's
And
badass.
the other thing I like about just the general format of the races is they're really giving the sub races a lot of emphasis, so that it's like, okay, not only does it leave room for them to offer other options, but for you to house rule stuff as well, or come up with your own stuff for your homebrews.
Yeah, mechanically, the sub-race feature is very, very well built.
Absolutely.
Because it does. You can absolutely just add on to the existing material and not have to rewrite it.
Right.
And
you have this baseline
different.
stuff. You have the baseline, and then you have these little things, little tweaks. You go.
So like, as long as you say this is part elf, or this is an elven race, but there's something different about these guys, then you can say, okay, well, instead of getting, this part here or this part here, we're just going to say we get this instead. And as long as you have the justification for it, it's...
It makes, what it kind of reminds me of too, though, is the way that, like, the way Pathfinder had alternative traits that you trade things out for.
Mhm.
Like, this is a more standardized way of doing it,
Mhm.
but, like, they would have these other race options that it says, all right, this class feature, or this race feature, replaces this race feature.
Right.
So it's essentially doing the same thing, because you could kind of customize and make your own sort of
But
sub-races in
there
Pathfinder.
you could really mix and match.
Well, yeah, that was
a lot of
super menu option.
Here it's
a little more
you get the chunk.
It's a little more narrow, a little more stripped down, but for simplicity's sake, I don't mind it.
Yeah, well, and also that too, it leaves infinite possibilities when it comes to adding on and building out the system.
Right.
Like, I think they've put a lot of care into how can we keep producing more products for this system without it feeling bloated, where it only just feels like more options.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Where it doesn't actually change.
Or power creep. Power creep is the other thing that happens. So
Well, and that they seems like they've also thought of that and how low they set the bar to raise up from.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys catch the bonus human stuff?
yeah, I read that where you could trade it out for a feat that we have no idea what the feats actually look like.
Let's explain it in case they haven't seen it. So essentially, the humans' benefits are they get a +1 to all their stats, a bonus language, and do they get anything else off the top?
Let's see here.
As baseline, you're talking about.
Yeah, just the baseline.
Yeah, I think maybe, do they get an extra skill too?
Human traits, you get ability scores increased by 1. Speed is 40. Speed is 30. You can write, speak, and read common and 1 extra language.
So that's kind of default, because every race
And
really
you've
gets
got
common in
the
their...
variant human is you get your ability score. 2 different stats are increased by 1. You gain proficiency in 1 skill of your choice, and you gain 1 feat of choice.
Or you can put those points in the same ability to get a +2.
Is that...
So it's 2 different ability scores of your choice plus 1.
Really, I thought that was the option. Only +1.
Well, on this particular thing.
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
saying.
read it right from here anyway.
So you're sacking out. You're sacking out four +1s to your array of stats to get proficiency in a skill and a feat.
Right.
So until we see what the actual feats have to offer, which I imagine they're going to be spectacular,
Because they're so rare, yeah.
that that it's going to be worth it. But only time will tell on that one.
So
That's almost like going back to the 3rd edition design.
well, no, it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Just giving a nod to that 3rd edition human.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing that I saw too, not in this but somewhere else, was a preview of National Player Handbook. Not the index, the brain's not functioning. I know I need Jeopardy music, but anyway, the table of contents. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. But it listed all the races for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Oh, cool.
So these 4, then you have half orc, half elf.
Yeah.
You have the gnome.
The
gnome is back.
They did not send the gnome to the monster
Banish
manual.
him to the gulags of the monster manual.
I have a lair.
and okay, so that's all the core races, right? Does that sound about right? Am I missing anything?
No, that sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
Sounds everything.
Here's a part where 4th edition fanboys may get happy, and this is a part where people that really didn't care for 4th edition so much may get angry.
What they add?
They brought back the Tiefling and the Dragonborn from 4th edition.
Yeah.
I like the Dragonborn. I thought they were pretty neat. And Tiefling got a lot of pluses. So.
See, I like Tiefling.
I think they should be super rare. I mean,
yeah,
that's my whole thing. Is and Dragonborn. You know what? Certain settings call for them, like Kryn. Kryn is absolutely a place for Dragonborn because there's those dragon people. Draconians. The Dragonborn absolutely fulfill that role. Only make them not all evil as the Draconians were.
Well, but, I mean that could be a personal preference. I mean, it could be just what is the setting? Are we talking about as you were talking earlier that humans are the plethora. Well, if you are in a fully integrated society where the cities honestly have everything all over the place, then there's no point in saying that, oh, I'm going to shake my fist at the Tiefling and the Dragonborn.
Well, the Tiefling, giving their race, their parentage, you still could. Because Tiefling should be super rare. Like the coupling of a demon that somebody, or devil that someone survives and is left mostly intact.
See, I don't think
they're not saying it's demon and a human. They're saying that you have, demonic blood somewhere in your bloodline. So it could be 3 or 4 generations back.
Right. Well, yeah, because it's not like you're straight up half demon, because you would be, that much more superior. Yeah, exactly. Template. But
wait a minute. Quick question, guys. Hey, any of you 4th edition players out there, Tiefling, did they become their own separate race, or are they still kind of like that?
No, according to the thing was they became their own race because they bred true. Actually, that's what they would say of most of the even the half-breed races. They could start their own, say, half-elves breeding with half-elves, that kind of thing. So there's a certain point all the half races bred true.
And their own specific race. Yeah, okay. I thought they did that in 4th with the Tiefling.
Yeah,
but I couldn't remember, because previous it was always, like you said, that it just, in the family tree somewhere, somebody got it on with something big, bad, and ugly. And then from then on there, probably for generations to come, they'd be producing Tieflings.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess that feels a little weird to me, being an old schooler.
I feel like Tiefling should be one of those things that's super rare, 1 in 100 adventurers, 1 in 50, something like that. They should feel super outcasty. Just my personal preference.
Well, I mean, and unfortunately, I really feel it does come down to the personal preference. A GM can either allow it or disallow it, based on what he feels his campaign needs or his campaign world can support.
Right. Well, I mean, even if you're a GM that's not super pro having Tieflings in your world, but you could just say you're just gonna have to deal with the stigma sort of thing. Same thing if somebody's gonna play a half orc.
Right.
Yeah.
So with other things that's in the in the little teaser, reading through it, I'm one that I pay attention to the background and little nuances on things, and with each of the descriptions, they're talking about the visualization of the races, and it's you've got the the dwarves that could honestly have a kind of golden bronze skin, and you've got the elves that could have the the white with the bluish tinge to it, and without any mention of oh, these are frost creatures or whatnot. I like that you can have that kind of real fantasy-esque look to the characters without needing something special to get there.
Well, they left it wide open.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that really adds some more levels to being able to build your character to what you want, because you've got the visualization options as well.
I mean, that's all also contingent on, like, in third edition you could have made a guy that looks a little off or whatever. That's whether your GM totally wants to be like, or DM wants to be totally in control of everything. And well, actually, in my world, that kind of mentality.
But when it's right there in the core, it's like, all right, this is kind of neat. I like that option right at the onset. I think that adds another nuance that some people they might care less about. But I thought it was neat. I thought it was a nice little addition.
One little thing I want to bring up, all the descriptions of all the different types of human. Like, this is, so, and it's funny too, when they did the human descriptions, it's the only thing that's super world specific.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's all in the little 5e download. It's pretty set agnostic. All these descriptions they came up with, like, to essentially describe different fantastic ethnicities, but it's like saying, hey, we got a race from this region. We have a race like this. We have people that look kind of Asian. We have people that look kind of black. We have people that look, kind of Native American looking or whatever. But so all of those things are pointing to Forgotten Realm setting stuff. But I think it's really because Wizards got hammered on the fact that, like, Anglo, the normal in D&D is Anglo. Like, you have to be a white Northern European or something like that, apparently, to be in a fantasy adventure game. And, like, so they really, because there was a lot of backlash against that.
They pointed out, no, it's not true. We put people of color in.
Yeah, like, my whole thing is
smack on us.
They could have just done what they did for all the sub races. My whole thing was just like, every once in a while, show a knight that happens to not be, like, Caucasian looking
in the
art, like, really.
Well, there was that in third edition.
Well, wait,
there was Ember the Monk.
No, that's getting back to my point. Like, to be any sort of thing, you had to be ethnic. Or I mean, like,
validated that.
No, exactly.
They made the Asian the monk.
Yeah, the Asian was the monk. Like basically you had to, if you were some sort of, like, outlandery type thing, sure, if you're a samurai or a ninja, you're gonna default to being Asian.
It's almost like what you would have just said, but they made the black guy the savage.
You're right.
You really didn't defend them there.
Right, they made the black guy the witch doctor class.
Well, you started off your point as saying that they didn't exist, and I gave proof that they exist,
and it, like, further hammers the thing. Like, that's why I love the Pathfinder. Like, they had one of their big iconic paladins was a black chick, and, like, they didn't play up any racial stereotype. This character just happens to be black. Like, I mean, in some instances, they had characters that looked, like they had a character that was kind of almost ethnically Indian looking as their monk. But it was like the races, they were pretty, like, wide and expansive without being stereotypical, like the monk or the savage.
Well, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Well, pretty much that covers it all. And to what you're saying, from in the 5th edition stuff, they also mentioned, non-gender specific roles.
Yeah, no, androgyny and stuff like that, which was, I've never seen that. So that's, I mean, no, I think they are listening, because there was that one pre-gen of, well, they made this samurai-looking woman who happened to be Asian, but at least her armor wasn't chainmail bikini armor. It was very traditional samurai, but happened to be a woman. So.
Well, I think
plus and minus.
Well, actually, I think that's okay, making the female Asian in samurai, because culturally,
she wouldn't have been able to be a samurai culture, like, in realistically. And the monk is a little bit different in the sense that there's also a lot of different types of monk. Well, no, I mean,
historically there's only been one kind of samurai.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, like, I like the idea of maybe doing a monk that's more like Greco-Roman, flavored or whatever.
And we're way off topic.
Oh, yeah. It's whatever.
It's Nerdarchy. It's what we do.
We're riding the streams of tangents.
We're nerds rule. But on that note, do we have anything else?
Constructive?
No. Race specific to talk about.
Nah, I think I've covered my points.
Yeah, overarching, I mean, I'll give a little bit of credit to I love the use of the flavor text at the beginning, taking actual content from novels past, some of the better ones, to kind of flesh out what the general overarching feel of the race is. They managed to put into there very nicely by
their iconic racial characters are essentially.
It does call the question whether these are going to be their iconics, like if they're going to just pull because iconics tends to mean like the sort of marquee characters for this edition of the game. So I wonder if they are actually going to take like pull the characters from the literature and make those the iconics.
It looks like they're doing it. They've done it in other places.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's cool. I didn't catch that.
You know.
We'll see more about that in our classes video.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Pretty much.
So if that's it, you know, we'll send you out. Until next time, stay nerdy.